How much does probate cost in North Carolina? If you're facing probate here in North Carolina, one of the first questions you're probably asking yourself is, how much is this going to cost me? And it's an important question because probate certainly does involve some expenses. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm a licensed real estate agent and certified probate expert here in New Hanover County, North Carolina. I help families navigate the probate process every day. So today, I want to break down specifically what probate costs in our area of the world here in southeastern North Carolina, what you can expect to pay, and where that money goes. And by the end of the video, my hope is that you'll have a clear picture of the financial side of probate, so there's no big surprises for you down the road. Before we get started, as I always do, I need to remind you I'm not an attorney. Nothing I'm sharing today is legal advice. This is educational information based on my experience with working with families through probate situations here in southeastern North Carolina. Every estate is different. The costs can vary significantly based on your specific situation. So I strongly recommend you have a conversation with an attorney that specializes in probate. First and foremost, so you can be certain that you're on the right track in regards to your specific situation, but also so you can have a more accurate discussion about specific estimates of costs based on your estate. If you'd like a recommendation for an excellent probate attorney in our area, please reach out to me and I would be happy to connect you. Let's start by talking about the different types of costs you'll encounter during probate. There's really 5 main categories of expenses. First are the court filing fees. Second, there are the attorney fees, if you hire one. Third, there are executor or administrator fees for the person who's managing the estate. Fourth, there's miscellaneous administrative costs like certified copies, appraisals, accounting fees. And lastly, there can be costs related to real estate if the estate includes property. So we're going to go through each one of these step by step so you know exactly what to expect. Let's start with the court filing fees. There are fees you pay to the clerk of the Superior Court to open the process and the probate case. Here in New Hanover County, the initial filing fee to open the estate is around $200 to $300. And this covers filing the will, the death certificate, and the initial application to be appointed as executor or administrator of the estate. Now, if the estate qualifies for a simplified small estate process, that's for estates that are under $20,000 or $30,000. For the filing fees for that are usually lower, usually $100 to $150. Throughout the probate process, you'll pay for certified copies of documents. The court charges a small fee for that, usually a few dollars per copy. For certified copies of letters of testamentary or letters of administration, you'll need multiple copies because every bank you deal with or financial institution, title companies, they're all going to want to have their own certified copy. So budget for maybe 10 to 20 certified copies, and that's going to add around $50 to $100. Good news is that the filing fees are relatively predictable and they're relatively affordable. So we're talking around a few $100s here versus thousands. So these fees go directly to the court and they're set by state law. So they're going to be the same whether you're in New Hanover County, Pender County, Brunswick County, or beyond in North Carolina. So next, let's talk about attorney fees, because this is usually one of the biggest expenses in probate. Let me be clear, you're not legally required to hire an attorney for probate in North Carolina. You can choose to handle it all on your own if you'd like. I can tell you from experience, most people ultimately do hire an attorney, especially if there's real estate involved or significant assets. Also, if there's any family complexity. Probate attorneys in North Carolina typically charge in one of 3 ways, usually 2 of 3 ways. Some charge a flat fee for handling the entire estate from start to finish. Some will charge an hourly rate for their time. And then less common is some will charge a percentage of the estate value. Though, like I said, that's less common in North Carolina than some other states. For a relatively straightforward estate here in New Hanover County, you're typically looking at of attorney fees between, say, $3,000 and $5,000 for a flat fee arrangement. If the estate is more complicated, maybe there's real estate to sell, maybe there are disputes or complex assets or tax issues, attorney fees could easily be $5,000 to $10,000 or more. But this is where it really pays to have a conversation with an attorney on the front end. So if they charge hourly rates in this area, typically range from, say, $300 to $400 per hour, depending on the attorney's experience and the complexity of the work. So I understand that when I speak with clients, sometimes those numbers may seem high to them, but I'll explain a little further about what you're getting, so that might help. A probate attorney is going to handle all the legal paperwork. They file everything with the court. They can communicate with creditors to make sure that all your deadlines are met. They advise you on legal requirements, and a big one is they also protect you from making mistakes that could create personal liability. So for most people I deal with, they find it's money well spent. It gives them peace of mind and protects them legally. So here's something important. Typically, attorney fees are paid by the estate, not by you personally. So the estate pays the attorney out of the estate funds before assets are distributed to the heirs. Next, let's talk about executor fees and administrator fees. The person who manages the estate, and that might be you in this case, is legally entitled to compensation for their work. North Carolina law allows the executor or the administrator to receive what's considered a reasonable fee for their services. The standard right now in North Carolina is typically 5% of the estate's value, though it can be less depending on the complexity of the work and what the court considers reasonable for this particular situation. So a basic example would be if the estate is worth $200,000, the executor could receive up to $10,000 in fees. There is a catch, though. Many family members who also serve as the executor choose not to take a fee, especially if they're also an heir to the estate. If you're going to inherit most of the estate anyway, taking an executor fee doesn't always make sense because executor fees are typically taxable income to you, whereas an inheritance generally is not. But if you're spending significant time managing a complex estate, or if you're not an heir and you're doing this as a service, you're absolutely entitled to reasonable compensation. So this is another thing you can discuss with your probate attorney. Next, let's talk about miscellaneous administrative costs. These are smaller expenses that add up during the probate process. If the estate includes real estate or personal property, you might need to get professional appraisals done to establish fair market value of those items or real estate. Real estate appraisals typically cost between $300 to $600, sometimes more, depending on the property. If there are valuable items like jewelry or art, collectibles, cars sometimes, you might need to have those appraised as well. You'll also have to have, there'll be costs for certified copies of the death certificate. So you're going to need multiple originals of that because those banks, insurance companies, investment firms, government agencies, they are all going to want or need their own certified copy. So I'd order at least 10 copies from the funeral home or the vital records office. And those usually right now run $15 to $25 each. So if the estate earns income during probate, or there's rental property generating income or investment accounts earning interest, you'll probably need to file estate tax returns. So this will usually require hiring an accountant, and that's obviously could run or vary greatly, $500 to $2,000 or more depending on the complexity. There's also miscellaneous expenses like mailings to creditors and postage fees, the cost of publishing notices in the newspaper, recording fees if you're transferring real estate deeds. So individually those are small, but collectively they can add up to several $100s. There's also miscellaneous costs like postage for certified mailings to creditors, publication fees if you need to publish legal notices in the newspaper, and recording fees if you're transferring real estate deeds. So individually these are small, but collectively they can add up to several $100s. The fifth potential cost of probate is around the real estate. And this can be a big one. It's what I specialize helping families with. If the estate includes a house or land, there are specific costs associated with that property. First, while the property is in probate, someone has to continue to pay the ongoing expenses, things like property taxes, homeowner insurance, HOA fees if they're applicable, utilities if you're keeping those on, and just general maintenance and repairs just to keep the property in good condition. If the property is vacant, you might want to pay for lawn service or routine inspections to prevent vandalism or deterioration, especially if you live out of town like a lot of my clients. These costs can easily run $500 to a couple $1,000s total, for all of those put together. Secondly, if the decision is made to sell the property, there's obviously costs associated with that. If you go through an agent, real estate commissions can typically run 5, 6, 7% of the sale price. There'll likely be closing costs, title insurance, attorney fees for the closing. There'll also be transfer taxes, probably prorated property taxes. So sellers typically pay around 2 to 3% of the sale price for closing costs alone. And before you sell, you might need to invest money in preparing the property. We see this a lot. So you may need to clean it out, hold estate sales, make minor repairs, perhaps some painting or landscaping to make it more marketable. This I can also help families with. I will always walk through a property with families to advise them on what repairs or improvements will give them the best return and what ones maybe just aren't necessary. I can connect you with contractors if needed, help you understand what the property's worth now or in the current market, so you can have those discussions with the family. But ultimately, my goal is to help maximize the value of the estate while minimizing the costs up front and the stress. So let's add all this up. The total cost of probate for a relatively straightforward estate here in New Hanover County, moderate assets, no major complications. You're typically looking at total costs of around maybe $3,000 on the very low side and higher. That would include court fees, attorney fees, executor fees if there's taken. More often we see the cost north of that a little bit. I often get the question, are there ways to minimize the cost of probate? And so absolutely there are. First and foremost, be organized and responsive. The more organized you are with your documents and deadlines, the less time your attorney is going to spend and the lower your fees might be. Second, consider working with somebody like me who understands the probate process, and I can help you avoid costly mistakes. Thirdly, communicate clearly with family members. Many complications I see and additional costs come from family disputes, so if everyone's on the same page, the more likely things are to move forward smoothly and cost less. So here's what I want you to take away. Obviously, probate involves costs. They're usually reasonable and predictable. They're paid by the estate, and they do serve an important purpose. So making sure everything's handled legally, protecting you from liability, ensuring proper distribution. Here's what I'd like you to take away. Yes, probate involves costs. Those are usually reasonable and predictable. They're paid by the estate, and they do serve an important purpose. They make sure everything gets handled legally, they protect you from personal liability, and they ensure proper distribution. So if you're facing probate, you're concerned about costs, talk to a probate attorney who can give you a more specific estimate. And if the estate includes real estate in this area, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to have a conversation and help you understand the process and what your options might be. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my other probate videos. And if you have any questions about probate, the process, the cost, inherited real estate, reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help you and connect you with somebody who can help. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.